Now let's take a look at using multiple projections to start to create our UV layout. So let's use this little guy as our example. 08 begin is the project file. And let's start by just selecting all of the polygons. Let's just do a quick Smart UV project. And then let's move those out of that area. Now we can start to be more specific about certain spots. So like maybe the arms, I want to go in and define a seam here. You can see I've already kind of started there. And so I can come in and maybe extend that, kind of figure out, okay, this is kind of facing to the inside, so I'll make that the seam. And then we can select the polygons. So I'm just going to use Control left mouse button to lasso around some of these different ones. And just making sure to get all of them selected. And let's come all the way down here, down to the bottom. And then once we have that section, which is really just a cylinder section, we can just do a simple unwrap, and then we get that piece. And then once you have that piece, you can do different things. So we can come in and minimize the stretching on it. Okay, something like that. We can go ahead and move it off. We can scale it down a little bit. Or up. Let's scale it down a little bit. We can rotate it. So something like that. So that enables you to kind of get these pieces done, and then you just kind of move them off to the side. Same thing down here. We can come down, and the bottom of the foot is going to be much different than the arm, and so we could come in here and start to, select some of these bits. And let me come in here, grab the bottom of the foot. And then once we get those polygons, we just select the rest of those. All right, and once we have those selected, we just come in and kind of get a good angle on this, and then go to unwrap, and we can use a completely different mapping type. So we can go to project from view and get the bottom of that foot, and again grab that, move it over. If we want to minimize the stretching, again that's Control V, and then we can kind of clean that up a little bit, rotate it around, scale it down, move it into position. And so you can just be very methodical about the way that you go through it. You can also use your unwrap as a starting point. So, if you define all of those seams and you do an unwrap and it gives you, something like this, you can use that as a starting point and go from there and start to cut things apart using the tools that we looked at earlier and put them back together so that you get a nice clean layout. But separating this out based on individual pieces can be a good way to do that as well. So there's several different ways to do things as we go through. The end result is really the important thing, in that you get a nice UV layout that you can use for your textures. So let's look at kind of going in and separating out different parts and doing individual projections versus doing one big projection and then going in and editing them all inside the editor here. So the next thing we'll look at is how do we transfer UVs from one mesh to another. So let's say we've got two identical meshes. One has the UVs that we want, one doesn't. How do we move the UVs back and forth? So we'll go ahead and take a look at that next.